Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Empoleon's Week 2 Team Builder of the PCL Season 4. We are coming off a win last week and looking to hopefully continue that win streak here today. Now, as you guys may or may not know, I always record these slightly before the battle, so I've got about a half an hour until the battle. I'm not going to try to use all of that for the Team Builder, but if I am rushing, it's just because I want to make sure I can get the battle set up in time and make sure that everything is going off without a hitch as needed. So just a heads up there, if these do feel a little bit rushed, that's how I do them. I record them literally right before the battle. They are specifically designed to remind me which team I'm looking at, which team I'm supposed to be facing, and how I intend to interact with that team in this specific instance and stay focused on that until the end of the battle. And then I can move on to the next team. And that's kind of, because I'm in a bunch of leagues right now, that's the best way for me to make sure that I don't forget what my tech was or anything for each specific matchup. So in this matchup, we are taking on the Philadelphia Phanpies, coached by WOS22. I'm not sure if that stands for anything, and I also don't know how I would say that except for the letters. So WOS22, check out his link in the description below. Check out his side of the battle and his side of the Team Builder. If he is uploading them, you guys will absolutely see that. Anyway, his team is absolutely terrifying. It is Dragapult, Cinderace, Espeon, Crocodile, Hitmontop, Lantern, Glaceon, Golisopod, Clefairy, Snorlax, and Ferrothorn. So top to bottom threats. Or it's GMax Snorlax. I didn't say that, but it's GMax Snorlax. And top to bottom, there are threats here. It's a really terrifying team. On some level, I'm not 100% sure if my team can ever truly match up to this team in what is going to amount to a perfect way, but at least it amounts to a way that I think has answers to all of his threats. So the first thing we're going to look at here is my Scizor. This is going to be a banded Scizor this week. It is going to be U-Turn, Knockoff, Bullet Punch, and Superpower, mostly spamming the stabs, although if I want to make that prediction of the Ferrothorn coming in, then the Superpower can potentially OHKO that and definitely will after U-turn damage once on that Ferrothorn. Now, I don't care if this thing takes Iron Barbs and even Rocky Helmet damage that much. It needs to stay above about 50% to survive a banded Sucker Punch from a Cinderace. Otherwise, I need this thing just to be alive, and it's going to be doing work. So the Ferrothorn switching in on it on the U-turn, not really a big deal a few times. Even like Rocky Helmet Hitmontop taking those U-turns. Again, not a huge deal a couple of times. If it starts getting chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped, then I've got to start thinking about it and towards an endgame situation, whether or not I can take those hits. If it's not a banded Cinderace, then I don't have to worry as much about it, but banded Sucker Punch from a Cinderace definitely has the chance to do a lot of work. So I want to make sure that I'm out of range of that, but other than that, I don't think this thing needs to be super healthy. And I am running a decent amount of speed. I want to make sure that I'm outpacing like an Adamant Hitmontop and thereabouts. I'm not expecting any of his faster mons not to run speed, so I just wanted to put myself above like an Adamant Hitmontop just to make sure that I'm running a decent amount of speed. I can never truly outspeed an Adamant Hitmontop unless I go Jolly, and I didn't want to do that, so just like uninvested or like minimally invested to try to catch me outspeeding some stuff. That's really where I wanted to sit, make sure I'm outspeeding the Golisopod, stuff like that. Next up is going to be my answer to his GMax Snorlax, sort of. It's not a great answer. It just stops. If he goes Curse, I go Curse. He can't use his 3 turns and just annihilate me unless he's got some like Surf or some special moves, which obviously that's just good tech. But it stops a Curse Lax from beating me immediately, since if I'm cursing and he's cursing, I will always be able to then eventually body press and do decent damage. And I could stall out his GMax. And once I stall out his GMax, we're in better shape. And cursing this thing is really solid against his Cinderace, which doesn't, HJK does not kill me if I've got a curse up, especially since I'm Solid Rock. Stops his Crocodile from doing a ton of work, again, if I've got a curse up or two. Hitmontop, he's got a lot of super effective threats. Solid Rock's really good here. But Curse just really allows me to be able to take those hits just that little bit better, and makes that body press obviously stronger against his roster. And if you look at his roster, he doesn't have a lot of answers to body press. He does have a handful here and there. He's got the Hitmontop, which sort of answers this, and he's got the Dragapult, which is immune, but that thing does not want to take like a +1 Earthquake from this. Running a weird set here, not running a lot of actual bulk investment. Obviously, the defense is for body press, and then I'm running Adamant, or not Adamant, but I'm running Max Attack to try to get the Earthquake and Stone Edge to do as much damage as possible to those threats that can take a body press, like the Golisopod, stuff like that. since I did need that coverage, I decided not to go with Rock since he has the Espeon, which can be switching into this and would be super frustrating. So just figured I'd try to get damage off on things, and this thing is just going to be a generally helpful mon to have access to in throughout the game. Next up is my Rotom Wash this week. Rotom Wash is going to be rocking out with a bit of an interesting set this week. It's a Nasty Plot set. It's modest with a bunch of speed. Since his speed tiers jump from 70 to 92, that means my base 86. I'm just going to try to outspeed his base 70. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And if he does go with like a slower Crook or more defensive Crook, I outspeed that as well. I'm not looking to outspeed his base 110s and above. That's just not going to happen with the Rotom if I'm not running Scarf, and I just didn't think that Scarf was the best set. So I decided to run Nasty Plot. Plot Rotom hits so hard. I'm running Plot Volt Switch, which is weird because obviously it means that I can't just like go for stab moves, and after the Nasty Plot I have to be really cognizant of it. I don't know if he'll go with a Volt Absorb or a Water Absorb Lantern if he does decide to bring it, so I do have to make sure that I'm maybe scouting for that early. But Nasty Plot Shadow Ball is more safe against the Lantern anyway, and just safe against pretty much his entire roster since the Crocodile doesn't really want to switch into this, and Ferrothorn does not appreciate +2 Shadow Balls. Now that being said, does Rotom want to take hits from the Ferrothorn? Not really. It's not that bulky this week. So that's why Volt Switch is there. Baiting in the Ferrothorn or the Snorlax and then going for a +2 Volt Switch, it's still going to do decent damage. And again, those things I just need to chip down and try to make sure that I have an endgame conditional win with the Scizor or with something like the Hatterene. GMax Hatterene, as we saw last week, did so much work with that Trick Room. I'm going to run it one more time. I haven't uploaded that video yet, so he hasn't seen how good Trick Room is for this thing yet, and we're just going to run a pretty simple set of Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Mystical Fire, and Trick Room. Nothing super secret here. Mystical Fire can bop the Ferrothorn, and I can take a Gyro Ball super happily because I'm really, really slow. So this is going to be mostly just to basically check everything on his team. I have a Casib Berry, or Casib Berry, I'm not sure how you say that, just to stop the Dragapult from annihilating me. So that's definitely one piece of like helpful tech that I can have. Getting the Psychic Terrain up to stop the Sucker Punches is useful, but it also stops my Scizor from doing quite as much, so I don't know if it's like a perfect trade-off, but it's still really strong against his roster. Crocodile does not want to switch in and take a Dazzling Gleam. It just definitely doesn't want to do that. He actually really has no great switch-ins to Dazzling Gleam. His resists are the Ferrothorn, which gets confused, and then I Mystical Fire and kill it. Or the Cinderace, which gets confused, does not want to be confused, and if I Trick Room up, I kill it on the following turn anyway with a Psychic. So he does not have a lot of great switch-ins. He's going to have to play some like incredible switching game. I can't necessarily pick up Okos with this, so the GMax isn't as important to picking up like 4 straight kills, but the Trick Room is useful just because this thing can probably take one hit from a majority of his team and then be able to proceed to do damage in the Trick Room and then potentially afterwards. But I'm not running the Expanding Force because I didn't think I was necessarily going to be clicking it, and it's just a little bit too conditional, in all honesty, whether or not I would get it off, and it would be doing more than Psychic. So I figured Psychic was just a little bit better this week. Next up is going to be my Salazzle. Salazzle this week is going to be rocking out also with the Nasty Plot, Sludge Wave, Flamethrower, and the Dragon Pulse. Now, this thing is going to be Adrenaline Orb. He's got both the Crocodile and the Hitmontop. Both those things love switching in on Salazzle. Both those things wouldn't mind getting that. Like, they'll come in with the Intimidate because that's what they have, but they also resist the moves. I could really see like an AV of either of those two things. I click Nasty Plot. Maybe it's a Scarf Crook. He goes into it thinking he can take any one hit. I click AV. I click Nasty Plot, get the Adrenaline Orb, I outspeed, go for the Flamethrower, do a lot of damage if he's Scarfed. If he's Assault Vested, then, you know, maybe he can survive, but I'm going to outspeed everything. I can outspeed the Dragapulse at that point, and at +2, I'm doing so much work. So this is not likely going to be like an early set. I'd like the Rotom to break a little bit of stuff before I go into my Salazzle if possible, but then once the Salazzle gets a chance to come in, click Nasty Plot, threaten something out, maybe like the Ferrothorn that he wants to preserve, or like the Glaceon or something that he has to switch out, into hopefully the Hitmontop of the Crocodile, and then I can go crazy from there, going with the Nasty Plot into a couple of moves, try to get some damage off. And of course, there's a sweeper. There's always a sweeper. Its name is Urshifu. Why would I not? This is a interesting set because objectively, I really wanted to run Sucker Punch. Like, there's nothing saying in my head that I don't want Sucker Punch for his faster mons that can OHKO me. Dragapult is a problem. Cinderace is a problem. They both have speed, and they both can Okomi. Those are not his immediate switch-ins to an Urshifu, though. He can't just hard go into those. So what I'm hoping is that he goes into something that is actually designed to take a hit from the Urshifu, namely the Hitmontop or the Crocodile. I don't think the Crocodile is as likely, but the Hitmontop especially. It really is one thing that can take a hit and dish out some damage because it resists both. It resists the Wicked Blow, can take a close combat, and he's able to do some damage. So what I'm going to do, if I get the opportunity, I'm going to click Bulk Up as he goes into his Hitmontop. That gets me back to neutral, and like my Salazzle, I'm running an Adrenaline Orb. And once I get the Adrenaline Orb to pop, I'm at +1 speed. I have enough speed on this thing to outspeed a Dragapult when I'm at +1, so I can always make sure that Wicked Blow is doing as much damage as possible. And I'm at neutral. I'm not at -1, so if he goes out of the Hitmontop and comes back in later, that's fine. I'm already at +1 defense, so a close combat from a Hitmontop isn't going to take me out, and I can just start dishing out damage. Again, this is probably something I want to bring in when things are a little bit chipped, and not even that chipped. Hitmontop is taking so much damage from close combat at a neutral amount of neutral damage, not like -1. And the rest of his team just doesn't appreciate this thing at all. So if I can get that speed boost on either one of these two Mons, both of my Adrenaline Orb Mons against both of his Intimidators, I'm hoping he brings them. Otherwise, I've got some dead items. But like, it seemed more fun. Like, what the heck, man? Why not bring double Adrenaline Orb in week 2? And we'll see what happens. I personally think that this team has a lot of potential to do a lot of work against his roster. But that being said, not having the Sucker Punch is tough. I needed the Poison Jab because one of his also possible switch-ins is Clefairy, and if he keeps that thing alive and around, it's just going to be obnoxious to deal with. So getting a Bulk Up as he goes into Clefairy and then going for a Poison Jab gives me the best chance to deal with it. But I don't think he brings Clefairy. It doesn't beat anything else on my roster, but because it does so well against Urshifu, he may have it on his roster. So I don't expect to see it, but I wanted to make sure I had that Poison Jab just in case so it didn't completely wall me, and I would have no useful item, and I would have no useful attack against it. So I ran the Poison Jab mostly specifically for that and for literally nothing else, because nothing else needed anything besides my 2 stabs. So anyway, that's the roster this week. Hopefully it goes well and we are able to take another W here in the PCL. Should be a lot of fun. I will see you guys back here tomorrow with that battle. And yeah, I'm having fun in these leagues, both of them, this and the PBAL. So hopefully you guys are enjoying them. If you are, make sure you check out the battle in the PBAL, which goes live the same day this Team Builder goes live. Or did I have that backwards? I might have that backwards. One of the Team Builders and battles goes live on the same day. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, everybody.